soft jazz hummed through the polished air of Le Jardin d'Or, the city's most exclusive restaurant. Chandeliers shimmered above tables dressed in ivory silk, their light refracting across crystal glassware and gold and cutlery. Here, in a place that whispered elegance and quiet power, the last person anyone expected to see was Lily Tran, 29, magnetic, and fiercely brilliant. Lily was the head of marketing at Orion Creatives, a rising star in the advertising world. Tonight, though, there was nothing polished about her appearance. She breezed through the doors in faded gray sweatpants, cartoon teddy bear pajamas peeking from beneath a zip-up hoodie, and sneakers that had survived more morning jogs than they should have. She looked exactly how she felt: annoyed, rushed, and slightly mortified. All she had planned was a quick detour. Her best friend, Vanessa, had begged her to show up and apologize in person for a last-minute blind date cancellation. Just 5 minutes, Lily had thought, in and out. What Vanessa had failed to mention was that the date was taking place at Le Jardin d'Or, five-star fortress of couture and clinking silver. And worse, sitting at table 12, sipping red wine with the calm composure of someone who owned the world, was none other than Julian Hale. Lily's stomach dropped. Julian Hale, 34, billionaire CEO of Halitech Innovations, and, more importantly, her greatest professional rival. For over a year, they had clashed head-on in pitch rooms and boardrooms, each outmaneuvering the other for high-profile clients. He had won the first 2 rounds. She had claimed the third in a spectacular fashion that had become the talk of the industry. And now, here he was, her blind date, wearing power, wearing confidence, wearing a navy suit so immaculately tailored it made her hoodie feel like an act of war. The hostess gave her an encouraging smile and gestured toward his table. "Your guest is waiting." Lily considered turning and bolting, pretending she had never entered. But the thought of giving Julian Hale the satisfaction of her retreat made her spine stiffen. She squared her shoulders and walked toward the lion's den. Julian looked up, his dark eyes catching hers. For a heartbeat, something flickered across his face: Cerberus, amusement, and then something sharper. "Miss Tran," he said smoothly, his voice low and laced with challenge, the same one she remembered from countless negotiations. "A bold fashion choice. Quite a departure from your usual armor of blazers and heels." Lily inhaled deeply and placed her hand on her hip, cocking one brow with calculated calm. "Mr. Hale, if I'd known I was walking into battle with my fiercest competitor, I might have brought actual armor. Alas, you get teddy bears tonight." She dropped into the chair across from him, refusing to let him see the flush rising in her cheeks. If anyone should be flustered, it was him, not her. Julian's lips curved as he lifted his wine glass, watching her with the cool, assessing stare that had intimidated entire marketing departments. "So, this wasn't some clever ploy to disarm me before our next client showdown." Lily let out a soft laugh, genuine despite the circumstances. "Please, if I wanted to throw you off balance, I'd use metrics and branding disruption strategies, not bedtime attire," she explained, voice calm but clipped. "Vanessa, my friend, was supposed to meet someone here tonight, but there was a family emergency, so she begged me to show up and explain. I didn't know it was you." Julian nodded, setting his glass down. "Likewise, my assistant, Daniel, arranged this. Said I needed to get up more." I suppose this was his version of matchmaking through mutual friends. He studied her with an expression that made her pulse skitter. "Although now I wonder if Daniel knew exactly who he was sending me to." The waiter approached, expertly masking his surprise at Lily's attire. She ordered sparkling water and salmon. Julian added another glass of wine and steak. By the time their plates arrived, the sharp edges between them had begun to dull. The tension had shifted more from rivalry into something else. Something charged. "I still think you sabotaged my Singapore pitch," Julian said mid-meal, spearing a bite of steak. "Knocking over my slide board, sending my team into a frenzy." "That was an accident," Lily replied, trying not to grin as she cut into her salmon. The floor was slippery. He tilted his head. And booking your Morrison account pitch right after mine. Surely that wasn't a coincidence. It's called strategy, she countered, eyes glittering. You should try it sometime. Julian leaned in, voice dropping an octave. I prefer to win through execution, not manipulation. And yet here you are, trailing behind me in client wins, Lily said sweetly. Their sparring was familiar, addictive even, but it had changed. Somewhere between the appetizers and shared smirks, the battlefield had become a ballroom. Then dessert arrivated decadent chocolate tartan. Julian surprised her. Why marketing? He asked softly. You could have been a lawyer with that debate skill set. Lily hesitated. The moment invited honesty, and somehow Julian's question didn't feel like a trap. My grandmother, she said. She ran a bakery in Koreatown for 40 years. Didn't speak much English, but she understood people. She knew exactly what cake would make someone smile. That's marketing, knowing what people want heaven when they don't. Julian was silent. Then he nodded, and for the first time, his carefully curated businessman mask slipped. Is she still around? She passed last year, Lily said quietly. Left me her recipe book and a stubborn streak I inherited. Julian looked at her for a long moment. Especially stubborn when it comes to wearing teddy bears to a 5-star restaurant. Lily grinned, especially then. As the night waned, Julian waved off her protest and paid the check. I may be ruthless, Lily, he said, holding the door open, but I'm not the kind of man who lets a woman in pajamas foot the bill. Chivalry, she murmured. You surprise me. He stepped out onto the sidewalk beside her, hands in his pockets. You surprised me too. She turned, startled. You mean tonight? Julian nodded. You're not what I expected. Neither are you, she admitted. You're human when you're not trying to poach my clients. They stood under the soft glow of the street lamps, suspended in a moment that felt like the edge of something. Then Julian pulled a business card from his pocket. In case you want to continue this conversation, he said. Somewhere with more appropriate attire. Lily hesitated, then took it. Their fingers brushed. Something in her chest fluttered. Are you asking me out, Hale? Maybe I'm proposing a merger. He replied with a half smile. Lily slipped the card into her hoodie. I'll think about it. But I don't make mergers easy. As his black town car slid into view, Julian gave her one last look intense and read a blend. Then he was gone. Back at her apartment, Lily found Vanessa curled up on the couch with 2 mugs of hot chocolate and an expression full of unspoken questions. Well, Vanessa asked, did you at least apologize? Or did you traumatize the poor guy? Lily kicked off her sneakers and flopped beside her friend, Julian Hale. Vanessa's mouth dropped open, as in, the Julian Hale, the one you said has ice in his veins and probably sleeps in our money suits. The very one, Lily said. Turns out, he's still arrogant, still infuriating, but different. Tonight was different. She pulled out his business card and stared at the elegant embossed letters. I think he might have asked me out, or tried to acquire me. With him, it's hard to tell. Are you going to call him? Vanessa asked. Lily stared at the card a moment longer, then set it on her nightstand. I haven't decided, she whispered. Dating a rival sounds like a career death sentence. Or, Vanessa said with a knowing smile, it could be the best idea you've ever had. Later, as Lily slipped into bed, her teddy bear pajamas now a source of ironic comfort, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. For once, her reflection didn't look like a marketing warrior. It looked like a woman who had accidentally stumbled into something real. And maybe, just maybe, that wasn't such a terrible idea after all. 3 weeks after the pajama dinner that had appended her carefully organized world, Lily Tran rolled her carry-on suitcase through the sleek marble lobby of the Ocean View Palisade Resort. The air was filled with the scent of sea salt, citrus, and luxury. Towering glass windows overlooked sunlit terraces and endless blue ocean. The venue was a dream. She was here for a 3-day marketing summit on emerging luxury brand strategies. It should have been straightforward, just a professional conference with the brightest minds in her field. What it wasn't supposed to be was a personal battlefield. She hadn't touched Julian Hale's business card since the night at Le Jardin d'Or, though she had picked it up more times than she cared to admit, stared at the numbers printed in elegance font, and wondered. She had almost called. Almost. Good afternoon, she greeted the receptionist, adjusting the strap of her bag on her shoulder. Tran, Lily Tran, checking in. The receptionist, Maria, smiled brightly and typed rapidly into her system. Ah, yes. Welcome to Ocean View, Miss Tran. It looks like you're in the premium villa or best two-bedroom suite with ocean views. Before Lily could respond, a familiar voice floated across the room. There seems to be some confusion with the booking. Her heart skipped. She turned slowly. Julian Hale stood at the adjacent counter, dressed in khaki slacks and a crisp white button-down shirt. His dark hair was slightly tousled, as though he'd run his fingers through it a dozen times. Without his tailored suit, he looked different, younger, less intimidating, more real. He noticed her at the same time. Surprise flickered across his face before he quickly masked it. Miss Tran, he said, straightening. We meet again. Lily blinked. What are you doing here? Same as you. Summit attendee. He turned to the receptionist. And apparently, there's been a double booking. Maria looked nervous. I'm so sorry, Mr. Hale, Ms. Tran. Due to a system errand, a high-profile festival in Town Villa was accidentally booked for both your companies. It's the only available accommodation. You're telling me we have to share? Lily asked, blinking. The bedrooms are separate, Maria said quickly, and the living area is very spacious. There's even a terrace with a hot tub and a private kitchen. Julian's eyes met hers. We're both adults. We can handle this professionally. Lily sighed, mentally weighing the disaster potential. The summit was too important. Causing a scene would only give the gossip mill more ammunition. Fine, she said through gritted teeth. But I'm taking the room with the ocean view. Julian chuckled. Naturally, a recipe for disaster. That evening, the welcome reception included a collaborative cooking challenge in lieu of a formal dinner. Attendees were given fresh local ingredients, access to their villa kitchens, and encouraged to connect creatively over cuisine. In a moment of foolish optimism, Lily had signed them both up. Now, in the villa's sleek gourmet kitchen, she was regretting everything. I cannot believe I volunteered for this, she muttered, tying an apron around her casual sundress. I don't even cook for myself. Julian rolled up his sleeves beside her, revealing forearms that were all sinew and strength. Relax, Lily. It's just pasta. She gave him a look. Famous last words. 30 minutes later, the kitchen was a war zone. There was flour in her hair, tomato sauce on the cabinets, and what had once been fresh handmade fettuccine now resembled gluey, doughy regret. The recipe says to fold the pasta gently, Lily said, brandishing a wooden spoon. I am folding gently, Julian insisted, aggressively mashing the noodles like they owed him money. That's not folding, she argued. That's violent intervention. Julian laughed. I prefer the direct approach. Of course you do, she muttered. You probably negotiate marketing deals the same way. He shot her a look over the rising steam. And you probably micromanage recipes the same way you overanalyze your ad pitches. Lily gasped. My attention to detail is why I won the Morrison account. Thank you very much. Your attention to detail is why our pasta is now sentient, Julian replied, holding up a spoon coated in gluey noodles. Despite herself, Lily burst out laughing. He joined her. They eventually salvaged something edible barely and sat down on the villa's terrace with plates of questionable pasta and a bottle of red wine from the minibar. The sky was ink blue, the moon reflected in the waves below. Lily curled her legs under her in the cushioned chair, sipping her wine. Julian leaned back across from her in a plain black t-shirt that clung to his frame like it was designed just for him. She tilted her head. Can I ask you something? He nodded. Shoot. Why do you do it? All official tech, the rivalry, the constant drive to win. Julian grew quiet, swirling the wine in his glass. Then he spoke, voice softer than she'd ever heard it. My father built Halitech from scratch, he said. He came from nothing, no fancy degrees, no safety net. He died when I was 25. I made him a promise on the day of his funeral that I'd make the company into something legendary. He paused, gazing out toward the dark sea. By every metric, I've succeeded. But sometimes I think I'm still trying to prove something to someone who isn't here to see it. Lily's heart ached. She hadn't expected this glimpse behind his armor. What about you? He asked, turning the question gently. What's Lily Tran fighting for? She hesitated. Normally, she deflected, gave clever answers. But the moonlight made the world feel quieter, safer. Security, she said. Growing up, my parents moved constantly, always chasing opportunity. I never felt stable. I told myself that I'd build a career so solid no one could ever pull the rug out from under me again. Julian nodded slowly. And yet you showed up to dinner in teddy bear pajamas, he said, his voice teasing but kind. Lily laughed softly. That was Vanessa's fault. But maybe I'm tired of always being polished and in control. I noticed, Julian murmured. Their eyes met. Something shifted. They talked for hours about books, childhood dreams, regrets, and ambitions. They laughed until their sides hurt. Julian shared stories about his father that he hadn't told anyone. Lily opened up about the bakery her grandmother ran, how it had been her safe haven. And then came the almost. Julian leaned closer. Lily, he said, his voice barely more than a whisper. That night at La Jordanelle surprised me. No one does that anymore. Not really. She blinked. Julian, this is complicated. We're competitors. It's messy. I know, he said, but maybe that's what makes it worth it. His hand reached out, brushing her knuckles. Their faces were inches apart. And then, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, sighing. My assistant. It might be urgent. She answered. A client emergency. Logistics, approvals, contracts on fire. By the time she finished the call 20 minutes later, the terrace was empty. Julian had gone to his room, and the moment waiter it might have been was gone with him. Morning after silence. The next day was colder. At the summit, they sat apart. During the panel on luxury rebranding, Julian nodded politely when their eyes met, but said nothing more. During the networking lunch, they made small talk about TikTok's growing influence on Gen Z shopping habits. It was professional, polite, distant, and yet, every time Lily glanced up, she caught him watching her. His expression unreadable, his gaze intense. She couldn't stop thinking about the way his voice had softened when he said her name, or how her name sounded coming from him. Revelations overheard. That evening, Lily was packing when she heard his voice through the open doorway to the living room. She hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but the quiet villa carried sound easily. I don't care what the board thinks, Julian was saying, his voice low but firm. Some things are worth the risk. A pause. Yes, I'm talking about Lily Tran, and I don't have a plan. Lily froze. I'm just following my instincts for once. When he ended the call, she stepped into the room, her suitcase forgotten. Julian, she said, voice soft. He turned, surprised. Lily, I didn't know you were. I heard you, she interrupted gently. About instincts. About me. They stood, staring across the space between them. 1,000 things unsaid. 1,000 things suddenly very clear. My instincts, she said, are telling me this is a terrible idea. Mine too, he said, stepping toward her. We could ruin everything. Our careers, our companies, our reputations. We could, she agreed, her voice trembling as he moved closer. I don't date competitors, she whispered. I don't either, he replied, now standing inches away. But maybe it's time we both break our own rules. He reached up and cupped her face gently, reverently, and kissed her. It was soft, uncertain, then everything. Lily felt like she was diving off a cliff, free falling into something terrifying and thrilling and completely unplanned. But as she kissed him back, her heart hammering in her chest, she realized something. Maybe the best things in life weren't part of the plan. 2 weeks after returning from Ocean View Palisade, Lily Tran's perfectly structured world began to wobble. It started as whispers just faint enough to doubt. but persistent enough to notice. A lingering glance in the elevator, a curious smirk in the break room. Then came the hallway hush, the way conversation stopped as she walked past, only to resume in murmurs behind her back. Someone had seen her with Julian Hale. It didn't take long for the speculation to evolve. A well-placed rumor here, a poorly veiled question there, and suddenly Lily was no longer the respected head of marketing at Orion Creatives. She was the woman who might be sleeping with the enemy. Monday morning, the storm hit. Lily said a firm voice as she entered the sleek downtown office. Jennifer Wu, Orion CEO, stood at the glass door of her office, eyes cool and unreadable. "Step into my office, please." Lily's stomach sank. She followed without a word, her heels silent on the polished floor. Jennifer didn't sit. She closed the door behind them and went straight to the point. "I'm hearing disturbing things," she said, "about you and Julian Hale." Lily kept her face neutral. "What sort of things?" Jennifer narrowed her eyes. "That you're romantically involved with him, that you've been in communication during our pitch preparations for the Hamilton Group account." "That's untrue," Lily said calmly. "I mean, we've spoken but not about business." Jennifer raised a brow. "You've been in contact?" "Yes," Lily admitted, "but not in any way that violates ethical standards. Julian and I," she paused, choosing her words. "We've developed a mutual respect, professionally and personally, but I have never compromised this company or its clients." Jennifer studied her, then, slowly, nodded. "I want to believe you," she said, "which is why I'm still putting you in charge of the Hamilton Group pitch." Lily blinked. "You're serious? This could be our biggest contract of the year," Jennifer said. "But if there's even a whisper of impropriety, if there's any sign that you've used your relationship to gain inside knowledge." "I haven't." "Then prove it," Jennifer said. "Deliver a flawless proposal." Lily nodded. "You'll get it." As she walked back to her desk, adrenaline coursing through her veins, she clenched her jaw. She would not let remorse or feelings undermine her. Shadows and sabotage. What Lily didn't know was that someone else had been watching her since the villa retreat. Her name was Rebecca Valla, Julian's former girlfriend, now a high-level marketing director at one of Orion's competing agencies, Vintage PR. Rebecca had seen Julian and Lily together at the resort. She'd watched them laugh over wine, watched the way he looked at her like she wasn't just another rival, but something more, and she had snapped. Rebecca had once imagined building a future with Julian. She had understood him, his ambition, his ruthlessness. She had matched him toe for toe, but she had never gotten past his walls. Then Lily Tran, with her teddy bear pajamas and quiet steel, had managed to climb over them. It wasn't fair. Rebecca had connections, and she had a plan. The night before the pitch, Lily sat in her office long after sunset, surrounded by glowing screens and color-coded documents. She had practiced her presentation twice already. The visuals were tight. The narrative was elegant. The branding vision was bold, but anchored in Hamilton's core values. She had everything under control until the knock on her door. Julian stood there, his usual perfect composure slightly frayed. His shirt was rumpled. His tie was gone. His eyes were dark with tension. "We need to talk," he said, closing the door behind him. "If this is about the Hamilton pitch, it's about Rebecca." Lily blinked. What does she have to do with anything? "She's spreading rumors," Julian said, pacing. "Telling people you've been feeding off my pitch materials, that you're using me to win the Hamilton contract. That's ridiculous." "I know," he said firmly, "but not everyone does. And Rebecca's good at making people believe what they want to believe." Lily's heart pounded. What's she planning? Julian's jaw tightened. "I think she's going to confront you publicly tomorrow." Lily stared at him. "Let her. My work will speak for itself." But even as she said it, doubt crept into her bones. The pitch and the trap. The next morning, Lily arrived early at the towering headquarters of Hamilton Group. Her nerves were coiled tight beneath her cream-colored blazer. Her pitch deck was pristine. Her confidence sharpened. The boardroom was a marvel of glass and light. The Hamilton executives, led by founder and CEO David Hamilton, were cordial and attentive. Lily began her presentation, voice strong, hands steady. She outlined a complete rebrand strategy that blended the firm's long legacy with sleek innovation and contemporary design. When she concluded, the room erupted in quiet applause. David Hamilton nodded with visible approval. Then the door opened. "I'm sorry to interrupt," came a smooth voice. Rebecca Vale entered the room, sleek in black, a felt folder in her manicured hands. "I felt it necessary," she said, with artificial sincerity, "to bring something to your attention before final decisions are made." She set the folder on a table. "These are records of communication emails, call logs between Ms. Tran and Julian Hale." Lily's blood ran cold. Rebecca smiled, thin and poisonous. "It's concerning how closely the timing of these conversations aligns with the preparation of this pitch." David Hamilton frowned. "Miss Tran, can you explain this?" Lily inhaled sharply. "Yes, I have been in contact with Mr. Hale, but none of our conversations involved business. They were personal." Rebecca's smile turned icy. "Pillow talk often includes confidential information." The accusation hung heavy in the room. Lily opened her mouth to defend herself when the boardroom doors opened again. "Enough." Julian Hale strode in, his presence commanding the space. Every eye turned. "Mr. Hale," David Hamilton said. "This is necessary," Julian said. He placed his own folder beside Rebecca's. "These are transcripts of every conversation between Ms. Tran and myself. You'll find discussions about books, childhood stories, family history, never business. In fact, Lily refused to speak strategy with me." He looked directly at David. "She built this pitch herself. It's brilliant. It deserves to win." Julian turned to the rest of the room. "I know because my company also prepared a proposal for this contract. It's completely different, and frankly hers is better." A stunned silence followed. David Hamilton glanced at Rebecca. "Do you have a response?" Rebecca said nothing. Her face had gone pale. Julian turned to Hamilton again. "We are withdrawing our bid. This is the right call for your company and for mine. The truth about love." After the board confirmed they would proceed with Lily's proposal and asked Rebecca to leave, the room cleared out. Only Julian and Lily remained. "You gave up a multi-million-dollar contract," she whispered. "For me." Julian stepped closer, his gaze steady. "Lily, I would give up more, but your companion board, what will they say?" "They'll say I'm a fool," he said with a soft smile. "And they'd be right. I'm a fool in love with you." Tears stung her eyes. "This is so complicated. We'll always be rivals, always have tension. Then we'll compete," Julian said. "But we'll do it honestly, together, as equals, as partners." He reached for her hand. "Let them talk. The people who matter will see the truth." Lily's voice trembled. "I believe you." And she meant it. She had fought for security her whole life, built walls, built armor, but somehow Julian Hale had slipped through anyway, and she wasn't sure she wanted to keep him out anymore. 6 months later, the same conference room where rumors once threatened Lily Tran's career had been transformed. This time, there were no pitch decks, no rival firms or hidden microphones, no Rebecca Vale waiting to pounce. Instead, white rose petals lined the floor. Sunlight spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, kissing the glass walls with golden light. In the center of the room stood a small altar adorned with simple ivory blooms and eucalyptus garlands. Lily stood behind the door, dressed not in her battle-ready blazer, but in a flowing white silk gown that shimmered like water under light. Her dark hair was swept into a low, romantic twist, pinned with her grandmother's jade comb. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the veil. "You're seriously marrying your biggest competitor," said Vanessa, laughing gently as she fixed a strand of hair framing Lily's face. "Former competitor," Lily corrected. "As of this morning, Halitech and Orion Creatives are officially merged." Vanessa raised her brows. "A business merger and a wedding merger? You don't do things halfway." Lily grinned. "Neither does Julian. Let me guess. He proposed during a board meeting with a slideshow." "Close," Lily said, eyes twinkling. He slid a merger agreement across the table with a diamond ring on top. Vanessa gasped. "You're joking." "I'm not." Lily's smile softened as she thought of that moment. "He said if we were going to build a future together, we might as well build something big." Outside the door, music began to play. Vanessa gave her a look of love and pride, then stepped aside. "It's time." A merger in every sense. Julian stood at the front of the room, wearing a charcoal suit that fit him like destiny. His hands were clasped in front of him, his face calm, but his eyes searched the space as if waiting for oxygen. When the doors opened and Lily walked down the aisle, the room fell still. For a man known for his control, his precision, his icy confidence, Julian Hill looked momentarily undone. He watched her like he'd never seen anything so beautiful. Like every plan, every strategy, every hard-fought deal had led to this one impossibly real moment. As Lily reached him, he took her hands with steady reverence. "You look," he began. "Don't say like a brand activation," she warned with a smile. He laughed, the sound rare and warm. "No, you look like the smartest decision I've ever made." The efficient welcomed the small Crowdgest family, close friends, and a handful of curious Hamilton Group executives who had insisted on hosting the ceremony as a gesture of goodwill. After all, it was in this very room that Lily had won their accountant. Julian had sacrificed his own to prove her integrity. There was poetry in returning to the scene of that defining moment. Vows between rivals. They chose to write their own vows. Julian went first. "I spent most of my life believing that love was a distraction," he said, with steady but soft, "that it weakened ambition, blurred focus. And then you walked into that restaurant in pajamas and dismantled every assumption I ever made." Laughter rippled through the room. "You challenged me," he continued, "out-hot me, outmaneuvered me, but you also saw me, not the CEO, not the strategist, just me. And for the first time, I didn't want to win against someone. I wanted to win with someone. You." Lily's eyes shimmered. Then it was her turn. "I never planned for you," she said. "I planned for security, for safety. I built walls so carefully, hoping they'd protect me from everything that could fall apart." She paused, her voice catching. "But then you came in suit, scowl, spreadsheets, and ruined all my plans. They're vulnerable, and risky, and terrifying, and worth every single risk." They exchanged rings, and as the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Julian leaned in close. "Ready for the biggest merger of your life," he whispered. "With you," Lily replied. "I'm ready for anything." They kissed, and the room erupted in applause. The strategy of a shared life. 2 weeks after the wedding, they held a private press event. It was time to announce the formal merger of Halitech and Orion Creatives, now known as Luminary and Halia, joint force in the world of marketing and innovation. The media buzzed with questions. How will the power dynamics work? Who's CEO? Are you worried about clashing visions? They had prepared answers, clear, confident, polished. But during the Q&A, one journalist raised her hand and asked, "Aren't you afraid love will cloud your judgment?" Julian looked at Lily. Then he said, "If anything, love made us sharper. It made us see what really matters. In branding and in life, it's about truth. People connect with what's real. And this," he gestured between them, "is the most real thing I've ever known." Lily nodded. "We're not afraid of being challenged. That's what brought us together. Iron sharpens iron. Passion sharpens purpose." And with that, they sealed not just a business venture but a new philosophy. Postscript. The nightstand card. Back home, Lily placed a small framed item on her nightstand. It was Julian's original business card from Le Jardin d'Or, tucked into a simple gold frame. "I thought you threw that out," he said one evening, noticing it. "Never," she replied. "That card," she said, "wasn't just a number. It was possibility. It was the first time I realized someone might be worth unplanning everything for." He wrapped his arms around her, kissing her temple. "You changed everything, Lily Tran." She smiled against his chest. So did you? Julie inhaled, and somewhere in the silence of their shared apartment-driven minds finally at peace there was no strategy, no plan, just partnership and love.